Second Life and Sansar are two independent teams, two independent products, and the Second Life team is working butt off to make Second Life better, grow, and we're investing high hopes Second Life to not only continue to exist, but to grow and become Second Life today is better than ever. Performance and the quality is better than ever because of incredible work that this team is doing on every day, and we're going to just continue to go make it better. As part of growth, there are lots of different things that contribute to that. Obviously, a lot of things that the team had been doing for years to make the quality and the performance continuously better and better, but also to continue to add features that make it a continually exciting product to for the enable incredible creativity and solutions to be built on the Second Life platform. But the other thing which we mentioned at the bottom of the sort of blog post about the 15-year year we're celebrating now is we're also looking at the economic model that we're dealing with. And like I've been saying for years, land is expensive, and so we're step by step trying to transition how we collect money, which today primarily is land, and we want to find ways to continuously reduce that. A couple of years ago, we did the buy down program that allowed people to get better rates, and what you also saw just very recently, the 10% drop and additional land allotment we did for mainland, which has had a really exciting response and has kept Patch and his team very, very busy with lots of customer transactions and interactions. And at the same time, we mentioned that means we will have to raise fees in other areas. So transaction fees, subscription fees, or how much stuff we free versus what you have to subscribe to get, to sort of shift the model. I kind of liken it to us having very high real estate taxes and very, very low consumption taxes. And we want to sort of shift those a little bit to get a better balance and get land cheaper. Then it's easier for people to own and hold land, and that means they have an opportunity to create, and that means that participate in the economy to buy things. So yes, even though transaction fees go up, hopefully we'll make that up in volume so that people that are in that business still come out ahead. So that's that. As you see, also we have a lot of work underway on things to help increase, the creative possibilities with projects like Animesh and Bake on Mesh, and to be able to create even more interesting content, whether it's for your commercial intent or for fun, and we're going to continue with that, as well as the environment control, so that you can have better control of environmental settings, and that's all those projects are underway. I can't speak to dates. A lot of these things are in early tests, and we're going to work with you, try to be very open. We test things out so that we can get in lockstep with you, and you can test things out and learn from you, so that time we're ready to completely roll things like this out, it's that makes sense to all of us. And then we're also investing in some really long-term stuff. moving our entire grid and infrastructure from our proprietary grid to be based on cloud infrastructure. It's a huge project. Continue to work on that. I don't know how long it will take. It'll probably take most of this year and then some. But that just gives you an indication that we're serious about the long term. I think the cost of hosting by cloud service providers like AWS, by Amazon, and Google, what Microsoft are doing, it's reached a point where it makes sense for us to go to those infrastructures rather than having our own proprietary infrastructure. And it also will enable us to doing some more flexible thing, whether it's geographic distribution of infrastructure to improve performance around the world, other types of things, maybe different, easier to move between different types of classes of server for different types of performance, or more on-demand services, etc. But we have not team is doing. So yeah, more to come.
Sounds like a lot of cool things are planned.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to get Patch to talk to everyone a little bit about some of those plans in deeper detail if we can. Patch. All right. Next question comes from Animats, and I don't know, was that you, Animats, earlier that was asking about this? Is asking what the plan for mobile is with Second Life.
Well, so before, like we were discussing a little bit before we kicked this off, we're in the early discussion stages. So Grumpy and I, Grumpy, who heads up product here for Second Life, we talk quite a bit about what it would mean to in a mobile Second Life experience or product, and so we're trying to figure out how to sort of validate the idea and how much would it take to do it, and what could the value be to us and to your customers to do it. And so we need to understand that equation before we can commit ourselves to doing it. But we're actively working, trying to figure out how to sort of give ourselves confidence that it would be a project to jump into. Just need to understand how big of an investment it is, what kind of a value it can add for us, and what's the return on that investment. So I'm hoping we come to the conclusion that we should proceed and invest in it and go do it. Excuse me, but we're not ready to sort of just jump in just yet. But I hope we come to the conclusion, jump in soon, and so more to come on that.
Great. Our next question is from Pat Knapp, who asks, we hear last names are coming back. Can you give us some details for the rollout of that? Will we be able to freely make a last name, or will we be given a pre-made list to choose from?
From what I understand, it will be a pre-made list. You'll also be able to change your first name, and there will be, probably something that it's something subscribers can take advantage of, and probably come with a fee to make sure that it doesn't happen crazily everywhere. So that so sort of have some sort of control over it. And yeah, I see people say they'll pay for it, and so it might be one of those fees that will reduce land cost a little bit. We'll see how much that could generate. And one thing I think someone suggested to me, I think it was Grumpy, that for people that script, don't use names, use agent IDs, because you can't assume that a name is, persistent over time. So just think about that if you're a scripter. But yeah, I don't know when this will happen, but I know the team is planning on getting it done. And it's been a highly requested thing, so go do it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of feedback about that one in particular, and I'm excited. I know a lot of folks are excited about that. E.T. Kingsley asks, how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?
Well, I'm not sure exactly. I mean, clearly many of you pay. And free to play is the model that obviously has become a very dominating model for platforms like this as well as gaming. So I don't think we have any plans to make it required for people to pay to come in and participate in Second Life. And to my earlier points, we just want to get a better balance in how we collect, so that we don't inhibit creation and consumption, but still make sure that it's a profitable business for us and can be a profitable business for many of you that have those intentions. And it might be that as part of upcoming subscription plans, that maybe you get a little bit less than you get today as you know, if you're not paying. So we're trying to figure out, and it will take a while to figure out all the details, but what exactly can a free resident do versus a paying resident, and might be some changes there. But free to play is here to stay.
Awesome. The next question is from Hints Guardian, and Hintsman asks is asking for, can you explain how the fees for Lindex and process credit requests are constantly increasing with no perceived added benefit to users?
Well, I think I sort of spoke to that earlier. You know, you might see increased fees because we're trying to reduce land cost. So we're shifting our economic from sort of one side to another side of the equation. And plus, so you're aware, the investment we're doing to make sure that all this money coming in and going out is in compliance with state and federal and global laws is quite an undertaking. You don't see a whole lot of products that have the unbelievable creativity and freedom that we have, the ability for people to exchange goods and services and make money, earn income, and then be able to redeem money back out again. And so making sure that that's all in compliance is taking. We now have money transmitter licenses in every state in the United States. It's been a multi-year process, and it takes a lot of effort to build the systems, tools, and the team to you know, operate these compliance efforts. So that's something that didn't exist many years ago. And if it didn't exist, would put a business model like this at tremendous risk. So huge investment there to make sure we're all safe and that there's no bad actors that can take advantage of a system like this to cause fraud or money laundering or all those kinds of things. So a huge effort underway there, and that has to be, that comes at a cost. And then that, with what I said earlier, we increase some fees on transactions or marketplace or subscriptions or wherever it might be, again, will allow us to lower land, and we think that's a good trade to be making. So that answers that.
All right. Our next question is from Palisade Coronet, who I believe I see is here. So this was your question, Palisade. When will Animesh and Baked Mesh become available?
So I think it's hard to say exact dates, and we try to refrain from that because it's hard to know exactly. I know these projects are well underway. Some of them are being tested, and we're interacting with users, and I think on the forums we'll make sure that you're all aware of the places that you can participate in the sort of the ideas around these features, and to test these features and make sure it doesn't break things, and to make sure that it's performant, to make sure it has the spec, that the tools to create and these things are as good as they can be before they sort of become. So I don't know, there are groups and forums and places where these projects are being discussed. So I assume we will make sure that everybody's aware of where those locations are, and where those meetings are, so people that are interested in those projects can heard and help us make sure that we get it right. So I think it's things that will roll out over the next couple of quarters or so, but I'm not sure exactly. It'll go out when it's ready, you know. We should have all that this year, unless something more important comes up. You know, you never know. It's hard to super precise on dates, but it's actively being worked on and really looking out soon.
Great. And yes, just to reiterate, we will be having additional Linden staff in our forum threads responding to a lot of the questions that we got. Many of you had multiple questions as part of your post, and we had to narrow things down. So just like I said, keep an eye out for that. Our next question is from Maddie. I'm going to mess up this last name, Ganoid, who is asking, yes, is it possible that Linden Lab will participate again in regular lab chat sessions after the announced SL15B town hall meeting? So I know that for those of you who don't know, we did have a series for a while working with staff, other folks called Lab Chat, where we were doing these types of meetings on a more regular basis. So I believe the question is if we plan on doing more conversations like this going forward.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I think us spending more time, and I know many of us already spend a lot of time with you, you know, whether it's us with the open source group or other team members, and you know, that's having meetings with various groups around different subject matter, whether it's around Animesh or whatever it might be, but having more general conversations with where I can speak with you, or other people on the team will meet with you. I think more is better. So, forward to hanging out with you and more going forward.
Yeah, I definitely plan to try to push, not that I have to, most of these folks on the team, as Ebbe mentioned, are really passionate and really eager to share as much as they can with the community ongoing and frequently. So I will definitely be working with them to try to get more and more sessions like this going in the world. So thank you for asking that question.
And as part of our investing in Second Life is also that we now have the luxury of Zola being 100% dedicated to Second Life. So she used to split her time between Second Life and Sansar, but I'll now get her 100% focused on us here in Second Life.
Yes, it's good to be home. All right. Gosh, we're just breezing through these questions pretty quick, but this next one is a little bit more esoteric, I think, or a little bit more whimsical, maybe is the word I'm looking for. Kind of a fun one. And Coffee du Jour asks, Ebbe, have you read Snow Crash and or Ready Player One? And how do you compare the Oasis as a social and educational space to Second Life?
To be honest, I have not read Snow Crash. It's on the side of my table. I have 2 copies. I've probably read dozens of pages before I get in. What I need personally to read a book is like 2-week vacation. I can't do whatever the hell Drax is doing to read like a book every month. Like my wife reads 4 books a week, and I need 3 days of downtime, and then I can sort of get into a book. And so I only get through so many books per year, unfortunately. I have read Ready Player One, but that's almost cheating because it's such an easy, fast read. Saw the movie, but we took the whole team here at Battery Office a few weeks ago, and it was fun. When we're standing there inside the movie theater, I bumped into Philip Rosedale because he and his group from High Fidelity were there at the same time. Then I turned my head over and there's Jeremy Bailenson from Stanford. So I don't think people in the movie theater realize that the people are like the most dedicated to actually building things that actually are things like Snow Crash and Ready Player One were in the movie theater at the same time. But I think Second Life is the closest by far that exists on the planet today to an idea like that. I am so incredibly inspired and blown away with the the breadth and depth of the type of things that Second Life is being used for, and the type of content's being made. From educators to health professionals to role players to people finding their loves of their lives, people who are able to do things in virtual space that they just cannot do in physical space. There's so many incredible positive stories ongoing. So being extremely motivated working on something like this is very, very easy because it's just so incredibly empowering for so many people. So just feel so fortunate to have the opportunity to do something like this, and can't wait for what we're going to be able to do over the next decades. So now there's, you can do this in all kinds of flavors. A lot of sci-fi tends up being a little bit dystopian. Clearly you can see from Second Life that it doesn't need to be dystopian at all. It can be beautiful, life improving, just incredibly empowering so many people. Tremendous amount of love and sharing and helping and creativity. So it's wonderful, and I just love it. It's awesome. So yeah, good question.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I have a couple of more questions we can go through here. Thanks, Grumpity, for highlighting these for us. This is actually another question from Vanity Fair, who asks, do you see Second Life lasting for another 15 years?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind.
Better start planning for SL30B.
Yeah.
All right.
15 is incredible that it's still such an incredibly successful product. I mean, it's successful to us, and but even better, seeing how successful it is to so many of you. Whether that's emotionally, monetarily, or creativity. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So why wouldn't we want this to go on forever? So let's keep it going.
Yeah, I think that I certainly would like to see that happen. We're in the throes of planning for the summer's 15th anniversary / birthday, and it's always a super exciting time of year. So let's see here. Next question is from Venus Petrov, who asks, have you thought about charging residents for each extra avatar created? A modest sum, perhaps $10 USD.
I don't think that particular thing has come up that I've heard of to charge for. I'm not sure if that's right or wrong. I'll let Grumpy and team think that one through, but I haven't heard that idea come up.
All right. Divine Teardrop asks, I would like to know if the teen grid will ever come back.
The teen grid?
Mm-hmm.
Also not something that's being actively discussed. I think actually bifurcating or having multiple grids, I don't know if that's in our best interest. I mean, I would rather try and figure out how we can make it so that those people can be here, and making sure we have the right controls in place to make sure that everybody can be here, rather than trying to have multiple brands or grids. So that would be my preference. So yeah, and there are no plans right now to do so.
One grid to appease them all.
Yeah.
All right. I do have another question here from Palisade Coronet, who asks if there are going to be adjustments to premium accounts.
Yes, definitely, and that's what I meant when I subscriptions. So when we think of premium accounts, what exactly do you get for free? What do you have to be a premium account holder to get? What capabilities? What 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 premium account levels will there be? How many? What as you increase your premium levels, how many more features and capabilities can you get? And what is then the actual pricing of each of those? It's a large project, but we definitely want to come out with a new premium model that, again, create a better balance of what you should get at different price points, and also make it more attractive so that more people like to subscribe, which then hopefully generates more revenue, which then hopefully allows us to reduce land cost again. So when I say fees, increasing so that we can reduce cost of land, it's all of that. It's premium, it's transaction fees and things we can think of to get a better balance and a better, more fair distribution of how we collect money. Yeah. So yeah, it's the huge complex spreadsheet with various options as to what goes into what plan, and trying to get limits and features and capabilities and stuff sort of put in the right space, right plans for the right model. So something Grumpy spends a lot of time thinking about.
Great. All right, we've got about 20 minutes left, and I've got about 2 questions left here for you, Ebbe, this morning.
Okay.
So just a quick reminder to everybody, we'll be doing another session this afternoon, I believe at 1. Take a look, and for those of you who can join us again then, fantastic to see you. And about 20 minutes left to go. Let me get into these last couple of questions here, and then if Ebbe had some final thoughts after that he wanted to share with you all. It's been fantastic to see you all here this morning. So let's see, another one from Coffee du Jour. What is the future of the lab's commitment to open source development?
Well, the open source client in Second Life, we have no plans to change that. I mean, trying to change that and go closed source for the Second Life client would be would be a bit nuts, I think, at this point. I mean, I see Jessica perked up there. Now she's, and the work they do, it's awesome. It's incredible. It's super helpful to us. I know many of you, third-party viewers can provide all kinds of unique that are more optimized for various different tasks, whether it's creators or stuff like that. So we have no plans to change that. Yep, Storm. And so yeah, no plans to change that for Second Life.
Okay, last question here is another one from Palisade. This asks, is Linden Lab planning to advertise SL to attract new customers and keep the population size healthy and sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, we spend quite a bit attracting new users every month, and we are investing in ways to continue to improve those campaigns, and this goes all the way from the ads themselves, what networks, what value propositions, all the way to the registration landing pages, registration flows, then the in-world first experience, and we're going to do a lot of testing to see what works best. Trying lots of different things. Brett's thinking about a lot of new different types of campaigns that can attract different audiences in ways and be more targeted. And we also want to test for how things can work if you get a much more focused value proposition throughout this whole onboarding process. So if someone is looking for something specific, they have the feeling of that they're going to get that all the way through the process. Historically been a fairly generic thing, like, here's the value prop, now come to this generic front door, and then we drop you off at sort of at the airport and say good luck. And so how can we get that to be more optimized so that we can get better return on the investment and higher conversion rates and better retention rates? All of that is being looked at and worked on every day. That's more to become more efficient and better at it so that we can help build audience. And it's from landing pages, experience pages. Oh, actually, that's not what we call it. Second life. What place pages? It's community gateways. There are all kinds of ways that we constantly try and iterate and improve to attract new users to ultimately not just maintain, but to grow. So it's efforts both on the quality of the core product itself, but also the process of acquiring new users to learn and discover Second Life. So that's we'll never stop trying to make that better. And anything, we're investing more in that than before. So more to come. And it's never as obvious as you think, You think if you just made this thing or this change, and so it ends up being a lot of A/B testing. If we try and acquire a user this way, through this onboarding flow, with this message, this experience, you figured by looking at it that it would clearly be better than this other one. And then you test it and it's not. You go, and you keep iterating. So it's kind of
the last 6 months, it's been dreadful, right?
No, it's not. I'm not sure what gives you that idea. It's actually
just the people around the local hub areas and etc.
Well, we have lots of hub areas, and we spread traffic around different hub areas to try testing all kinds of various implementation. Yep.
I have a really solid question that is not being addressed, and I've been trying to get it addressed for over a year. There's been a lot of environment changes, meaning wind, light, all of those kind of things, and how the physics are affecting different prims and things. There's people here like myself. I have a golf course. There's people with cars and who make cars, and people who make boats and things like that are all part of a big part of Second Life. People like to do the traveling and the flying and all of those types of activities in Second Life. And the changes have affected our game as far as golf. They have affected flying and driving and boating. All of these changes to the cloud. The last 6 months have been really, really trying. When we have golf tournaments, our golf systems aren't working the same. We come to your meetings. I go to the Simon Linden meetings some Tuesdays, and I ask questions about what's going on. Why are these changes happening? Can you answer for them? And they tell us, one of the answers I got was, well, we don't even know how wind showed up in Second Life because it wasn't something that was planned. It just kind of showed up. It's affecting our economy. It's affecting our users. They're losing interest because they can go and play another game that's more stable in another environment.
I've heard that too.
How can we get the Lindens to pay attention to our situations and our economies and our communities come out and do testing with us and be serious about it. Because somebody comes to my sim and spends a half hour maybe investigating something that only shows up, you know, every now and then. How do we get you and your people to take us seriously about what we're trying to create here for you to make your environment more inviting?
Yeah. I can't speak to the specifics that you're talking about. That sounds like technical questions that other people.
They are technical questions, and nobody on your team seems to be able to take it
No,
seriously
they're
or be able
excuses.
to
They're
answer
excuses
it.
that
They're
that's
excuses
like
that are empty.
Well, well,
yep, excuses.
We would like.
well, you might think so that they're excuses, but
Well, we would like you to
The
take it
non-answer to a
seriously,
question
though.
is an excuse.
well, I don't have an answer to a question because I don't know the
Then
answer
that
to the
makes an
question.
excuse.
That's not an excuse. That's being honest. I don't have
No, it is
answer
being
for that
honest.
question. I have
But
no
how
idea
come-
what the performance issues on this particular person's place is. So that's
Well,
a
they're
question
not on
for.
a particular place.
Can you
That's
please
the
make
was
this
it.
town meeting as
Yeah.
pleasant as it can instead of interrupting people? Sir, where you're interrupting Linden, please don't interrupt Linden or the questionnaire.
Well, we also can't have
We
this
did.
large of a group of people talking about a very specific thing like that. So we're going to
Well,
have to.
so
And I don't even have an
I'm
answer,
talking
so
general.
I can't have
We're
an
asking
answer to
a
it.
general question, Ebbe. I really believe that because I'm asking a question that impacts many, many communities, and it's about these environment changes that are happening. And we have big commerce coming. We have people who love, these are things people love about Second Life. They can fly, they can dance, they can play golf, they can play other games like golf with bowling and things like that. All
So-
of these bills
so we-
are being affected.
Yeah, so we have specific channels through support, Patch's team, to bring these things up and to have them help come look and try and understand and diagnose what's going on. Is it your content? Is it someone's scripts? Is it something in our platform? Issues. If we can identify it as a real
I have a Jahara that's been open for nearly a year now, and I've been muted.
Yeah, well, we'll have to just ask the people that actually can do this work to just give their answers to it, because I'm just quite confident, though, that we have teams that actually do look at these things and do listen to these issues, and that doesn't mean we can solve everybody's issues or do everything everybody wants. I do know that for most people, Second Life is better today than it's ever been, and it's more performant than it's ever been. So if there are other situations where that's not true, we want to know about them, we want to hear about them, we want to try and understand them.
It's better than it's ever been. Like, there's just no one around, like, generally. So how do...
But when you say there's no one around, I'm looking at the
just,
data.
like, dropping around different sims and different places, and there's just no one around.
Well, but I look at the data. I look at the data.
Someone's voicing, they're all trying to text. It's like we're back in the 1985.
Well, if you look at the metrics of the number of users and what they do, then that doesn't make sense.
Guys, let me just interrupt real quick. Laz and I'm not sure what the other one is speaking. Send an email to patch@lindenlab.com, and I can promise you Patch will give you his attention on this matter.
Yep.
Ebbe's not going to know the technical details of this issue.
Yeah, like I said, he may be head honcho, but he doesn't know the technical stuff. That's more Patches and his team's department.
All right, guys, so we have about a couple of minutes left to go. I don't know, Ebbe, did you have some closing thoughts or some final words you wanted to share before we wrap up here in the next 7 or 8 minutes?
Yeah, thank you for coming. Super happy to be able to answer some of your questions. Obviously, I can't answer all of your questions, either because of volume or specific technical things in nature. And but we do have people who can. Again, just reiterate that I'm extremely excited about the team, the work they're doing. How we continuously improve, continue to invest to make Second Life better. That our goal is to grow and are working on plans for us to be around for a long, long time. And I love this product. I love the community. I love all of you, whether you're happy or angry. It's
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for that. But like, what my question is: do you notice less people or more people? Let's just put it black and white. Less or more people.
From the peak, it's slightly less. At the peak, if we're going to talk about it, at the peak,
I'm just saying, like now, you know, you used to.
It's shrunk a bit over the last 8-9 years. Very slow decline. Very slow decline. And we are optimistic and motivated to reverse that trend to start growing.
What I've noticed is that since Space has been promoting on Facebook, do you have any plans to promote Second Life on Facebook?
It's one place we look at for customer acquisition. It's not necessarily a good place to do it for the cost of user acquisition through that channel. But it's something we have and we'll continue to experiment with. We experiment across a lot of different channels. So I am. So my wrap is: Second Life is awesome. We're going to continue to make it better. We're investing. We're dead set on growing, and I so appreciate all the work that you all do to make this a great place for all of us. And so I want to thank you with that. But so if that's the end of the official session, I'm still happy to just hang around here and thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for giving me the information about Patch. I crashed right before you guys gave it to me, but I did hear it. That's been the hardest part of everything we've been trying to do for golf and for the other people that are using the environments, is find out who do we talk to.
Patch is a mover. He's a doer. He'll get it done.
Yep.
You'll get answers from him.
All right,
Ebbe, thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Any other anyone who wants to just hang out?
I think I just heard Drax. Drax, did you?
Can we just chime in on voice? Is that okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, wait. If we're done with the official session right now, like, go for it.
Okay. Just informally, the land discounting that you're talking about, would that apply to all forms of land, even skill gaming lands?
Yeah, we would love to lower the cost of all lands. You know, which land in which sequence and by how much is sort of still TBD. I mean, we did do the buy down program a couple of years ago, 18 months or 2 years ago. We did the mainland reduction, and we're hoping to do more of it on a go-forward basis. But at the same time, we then have to do other things, compensate for that, you know, to get balance right. But yes, I would love for all land to be cheaper and cheaper over time, so that more content, more creativity, and therefore more transactions and more interesting things to do, and make it affordable for more and more people to have places to create and live and do whatever they want to do. So that's it's a core motivation of us to do.
Thank you. The only go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask. I kind of have like a three-prong question. I'd like to know if there's going to be improvements to voice in terms of quality. If you're going to deal with the voice hacking, if accounts are going to get two-factor authentication, and if people who are banned will get a better appeals process, for figuring out how to get their account back in case they were banned, unfairly.
Wow, there are lots of questions there. I know it's probably the voice quality questions are probably best to talk to Oz about. Certainly whatever hacking you're talking about is probably best to talk to Oz about. I wouldn't know on the top of my head. I know we work with our third party that provides us the tech for this. We obviously to continuously improved quality, I think. But and as far as the process for someone who may have been banned, I think is already very, very solid. Fortunately, you don't hear the complete story, and obviously we can never really give you the complete story. You might have a lot of information about how and why someone got. They can obviously claim to you all that it wasn't them, it was their cousin, and might have been this or that, but like we know. So I feel very confident that I have to take the unfortunate step of making these decisions that we. I don't think we make those mistakes.
Well, what about the two-factor authentication?
Two-factor, I don't know that we have plans to do that right now. And if we were to do it, would it make sense to do it opt-in thing? Would it make sense to do it for certain parts of the product, account pages or etc.? But right now, I haven't seen this being on the something we do. So that's something to bring Grumpy and her team as to whether we want to prioritize that.
I have a question. I don't know if you guys know about what the FCC is doing next week. You guys involved with that or no?
I mean, anything that has to do with compliance, we are extremely involved. Like I mentioned earlier, we are in we take compliance very, very seriously, and so what data is stored, how it's stored, how secure things are, how money moves, all of this stuff is under extremely tight control. You cannot get money transmitter licenses in all the states of this country unless you have all that extremely buttoned up. Yes, we're paying attention to what's coming down from Europe, and if that has any impact on what, and as well as some of the new regulations coming out of the U.S. And so we always look at those. Our legal team looks at those and we figure out whether they're applicable to us, whether we need changes to comply with those, and if we need to do changes to comply with those, we do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will any features from Sanzar be backported to SL, for example, Marvelous Designer Clothing or the new rendering engine?
Well, the rendering engine, no. I mean, these are such completely different beasts with completely different sort of expectations as far as what kind of hardware you can run on, what types of content you can create, how you can create that content. So the rendering engines are like, completely different from one another. There's certainly things that both teams can learn from each other. So There are techniques we might use in Sansar that the Second Life team can choose to learn from and take advantage of, and vice versa. But right now, there's no obvious way to just swap technologies between these two. It's two completely different products with completely different architectures, with even very different sort of use cases in mind. So don't expect.
What about the clothing feature that's been integrated into Marvelous Designer, though? A lot of people on SL who are creators use Marvelous Designer, but it would be nice if there was a direct support of the SAMD format inside of SL.
I mean, Marvelous Designer is awesome, but whether it's something that could be leveraged for Second Life or not, I'm not sure. It would be something
Pretty
to,
amazing.
yeah, that would be something for the Second Life team to look at, whether the output from Marvelous Designer industry and Second Life. Not sure about the extremely tight integration with it in Sansar between Designer. Could the output of or the learnings we've had from working for Second Life, it could be an interesting thing to look into, but I'm not sure. Good idea.
I'm not trying to help with this, but first of all, first time being the town hall meetings, or sorry, I'm a little nervous. I do have one question, one thing to add on to that comment earlier about the rendering engine. I believe one of the reasons why it wouldn't be possible to bring SL to the Sansor's rendering engine to SL was because of the fact that it uses pre-rendered shadows and the sort that has to be done with the when editing a scene, I believe, and I'm not used to Sansar, I only know a little bit about it. Other than that, I have another question. In some communities I'm in, I've noticed that there have been a lot of people, or some people who have been using bots to spam the same message over and over again, or just using alternate accounts over and over again. And in one case I know of, it's been done for years, and it keeps either being banned by Linden Lab or the group owners, and they come back under a different account. Is there something that Linden Lab will be able to do to resolve that hardware-based UUID ban or something like that sometime in the future, if possible?
This is, this ongoing. This is an ongoing sort of never-ending fight. Unless you put up some really significant barrier of entry, like I need to see your credit card before I let you in type of thing. So a free-to-play system, these are some of the things we deal with. We have lots of tools in place to diagnose and see these things. Sometimes hard to tell, the fun stuff from the bad stuff. They can look the same at times, but we and region owners also have some controls as to what types of people they want to let into their regions, and so how much do we control and put up bigger barriers of entry. Then it gets harder for from the good people to get in. So it's hard to sort of specifically just prevent the bad people from the good people to come in without affecting, the ease by which good people can come in.
What if they put their credit card on file, but they don't have to pay anything? So it's
but
still
even
free.
Yeah, but that is a huge barrier of entry. So the conversion rate of users who would be willing to do that, you would severely drop the number of users that were willing to come in and have a look. And so this is kind of part of free to play. Now there are regions that can have that requirement that you have to have credit card on file to even enter. So there might be regions in Second Life that are therefore safer from sort of the troubled. And
then you just use an ID instead of a credit card then?
Yeah, but collecting an ID is non-trivial on a global scale. And so again, I think if we were to do that as a requirement to be able to enter Second Life at all, you'd probably get rid of way more good than bad. That would be fortunate, since we all want this thing to grow. So,
Okay.
but keep coming up with ideas for anything we can do to help, reduce the bad actors. This is obviously an area we spend a lot of time on, and through the 15 years of operating, we have a tremendous amount of experience. But ultimately, if you want to be free to play and make it easy for new people to come in, well, bad actors will come with that. And so then giving you the tools who have land to be able to reach your places, and us to be able to identify bad actors quickly, actions on those, that's it's part of what I spend a lot of time on. But unfortunately, making it foolproof is very impossible.
Hi, I got a question.
I have a follow-up on this topic.
I'm sorry. My friends trying to come into Second Life, and they use a prepaid card, and they're not able to register on Second Life. Going to be another way that's easier for them to register their prepaid cards to Second Life?
Prepaid cards as a payment method, you mean?
Yes.
Well, they can certainly come in, but if they want to spend money, I don't know if prepaid cards. I think it's something we discussed before. I'm not sure if that would be sort of enough users there to really move the needle, and at this point I don't even remember. Actually, someone here said prepaid cards don't work in general. Yeah, so I don't know. There might be technical issues to really make that work, or the payment processors we work with might not support those. So
prepaid cards have been...
I have a follow-up on the bad actors question that somebody asked. What if somebody's conducting bad acts, but they're doing it in a language that's not English, and it may be hard to translate? Does Linden Lab have the translators on staff to get rid of those bad actors?
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily look...
If it's reported, through all the properly reported.
Yeah, that'd be a question for Patch. I don't know how do we tell if someone is harassing someone in, let's say, Arabic, and we don't have Arabic speakers on staff? Would we know, or would they have to call me if someone's being a pain in the butt in Swedish? I can go help figure out whether they are being harassing or not.
Yeah, actually, we have a lot of languages covered on the team. I actually have a fairly diversified selection of folks who work with us that have quite a few of the languages covered. I myself actually can cover 2 of them alone, as well as got a couple of actual trilinguals on the team as well that kind of help us with that stuff. In a lot of cases, whenever we see something that is of particular concern, and if it isn't a language that we don't natively understand between ourselves, I actually have a service that I use and bring in to actually translate stuff out very quickly that we can understand what's happening with it.
Yeah, thank you.
Can I just say something about prepaid cards? As an employee of a financial institution, we have also noticed that prepaid cards can be an avenue of fraud. So it's not always a good thing to take prepaid cards.
Yeah, I mean, we work with PayPal, we work with credit cards, we work with sort of some of the biggest payment processors on the planet, and if you start dealing with other types of methods that are not supported by the major players, you start getting into the fringes, and it becomes technical headache. And so I think we support the vast majority of ways that people pay, and I think we're better off spending our energy elsewhere than finding sort of other niche ways of. All right. I got to run in 2 minutes. Any last questions before some of you might show up again this afternoon? But
I do have one question. Are prices for private islands going to be adjusted now that mainland has become more competitive to help landowners?
Well, I think I spoke to that several times, that we want to. and we're planning to. How much by when, I couldn't say exactly, but that's our goal. We did it for private islands a couple of years ago with the buy-down program. Whether we do a buy-down program again, or if we just drop the rate for all of them, sort of just one day, bam. That depends on also how much we think we can increase fees in other areas, and want to do it in steps. I mean, if we were to try and snap this into what state to be extremely jarring, and it's all kinds of. It's almost like, just imagine doing significant tax changes in a country or something. You just shift things massively. Overnight, destroy businesses, or so we have to sort of do it gradually a little bit, and we want to do it as aggressively and as fast as we can, but we also want to make sure that we do them step by step, and we can measure the impact of these changes. Because one hope with lowering land prices is that we then get a response in that will increase volume. That what we lose in margin, we will make up in volume. But if that's not the case, then we have to be more careful. So it's kind of a needs to be measured.
Like, for example, I had some renters on my land. I have a private island, and when the mainland prices changed and the premium accounts changed, it actually wiped me out. Like, I have one renter now, and I'm sure that I'm probably not the only one that's happening to right now.
Yeah. So did you participate in the buy-down program?
Well, no. It's I'm renting from somebody else. So I'm renting.
Okay.
Island. Right.
Yeah. So okay. So you're getting a private island from. Yeah. So and so you're just highlighting something there, right? How do we? Every time we move something, it positively impacts someone and negatively impacts someone else, and so understanding how these things impact the economy. Something that we spend a lot of time thinking, try to be careful, but it's impossible to make this adjustment without it having some sort of secondary and effect and ramifications. And so that's why we're actually being sort of I wish we could go faster, but want to make sure we understand the impact. So this change of just a 10% decrease on mainland and giving them some more land over there, you felt that impact from a completely other part of the economy, and so we want to figure out how we can help out. But if we drop the price of private islands, will the person that you're renting from drop his or her price? That's up to them then. So we have to see how sort of the market adjusts to these things, and you have to be careful. But it's I think the goal is to make land cheaper for everyone.
I have one last real quick question about the size of Sims. They seem to be set at 65,536 square meters. And also the height at which we can build is locked to 4,000. Beyond that, you can't build. Is there any reason that those values couldn't be changed? Like, why couldn't we build out further? Why can't we build up higher?
I know that there's some really early experimentation for whether we could have larger pieces of land than 256 by 256, but there's a huge amount of sort of baked in I don't want to say hard-coded, but like there's a lot of things in the whole platform that sort of have those assumptions in place. So making land larger comes with all kinds of side effects and issues. And I know someone has just, a really smart person in the lab here, engineer, has been playing with the idea of what would it take, and it's not trivial. 4,000 in the height, that's pretty much where you start actually running into. On that, you start to run into math problems on position, but how to get more width and breadth, 256 by 256, yes, it could be do 1024 by 1024. I don't know. We'll see if this, some of the experimentation that's being done and understanding sort of doing technically implies. We would love to, but I just don't know how how hard it would be and how valuable it would be to investment, but someone's at least poking at it to try and understand it.
I have
well, thanks for hanging out after Ebbe. I know you said you had to jump to a next thing here.
Yeah.
But we'll be back again at 1, and we'll have an opportunity for more questions then as well.
Real quick, is there any plans to come up with a sim that is somewhere in between the homestead and the full sims, as far as price, so that it would be so that the pricing would be somewhere in the middle, as well as the prim count on the sim?
Regions. Yes, maybe. I'm thinking about it.
Right. Yeah. But there's correct. Patch and
we know you're always thinking about it, but is it something that could possibly happen, say in the next 12 to 24 months?
I can't promise. I can't promise new land options. I mean, if anything, I personally think that it's a bit complicated as it is already. So unless you're like a really dedicated person to try and figure out all these options of how to get yourself a piece of land, most people that come into Second Life and wants a piece of land is probably